Hey everyone, Mherex here, and I'm happy to bring you guys episode 5 of the longest weekly running episodic WWE Champions podcast, DI Cable Guy. As always, this podcast is brought to you by TWO, who's been pinning its competition since 1897, and don't forget, Big Red. It's delicious. We got a great show on tap for you guys today. Uh, we're going to talk about the week coming up. We're going to talk a little bit about the Masters of the Universe guys, go into depth on Robo Cena. We're going to talk about some technicians as well and how we feel about techs and all of that stuff. So with that being said, I know you're all super curious about who this week's guest is. I do have to say last week's guest was a smashing success. The Button, everyone loved it. They wanted him back. However, the Button couldn't be with us today as he is out there doing good work, helping people achieve things they couldn't without him. I don't know when we'll be able to get him back, but I will try. So my apologies that it was a one-time thing as of now, but we're going to see what we can do to get him back. With that being said, I don't think you'll be disappointed with this guest. There is a saying by a very famous wrestler that the cream will rise to the top. And you might say this guest is the cream of the crop, and I feel like he has risen to the top. It's Dr. Phantom, who is somewhat mysterious, hence the name. He does like to do some role play, I guess. He likes to pretend he's it looks like maybe Macho Man or something along those lines. I don't really know. I'm not really sure. I was told he plays champions. Other than that, I don't know a lot about him. I think he's mysterious. He may or may not have druids in his employ. That's something maybe we'll get into. So with all that being said, Dr. Phantom, welcome to the show.
So right away, I'd like to point out that I kind of disagree with some of the things you just said. Most notably, you being excited about us bringing them a very good show. Statistically speaking, the chances of this being a very good show are not that great.
Well, that's hurtful. I don't know why you would say that. I have lots and lots of fans. I mean, maybe you're just being hateful because you're new to the show and don't understand how wildly popular it is.
Perhaps. I mean, the cold analysis maybe was incorrect, but we'll see. We'll see how it turns out.
All right.
See who gets the last laugh here.
This is not starting out the way I had anticipated. I was not expecting this level of hostility. However, your name does lend itself to being somewhat of a heel, so I can see that. Yeah, anyway, all that being said, regardless, welcome to the show, sir.
I will say one thing that you did hit right on the head is my joy for cosplay. So little known fact, the Macho Man gimmick is actually a little get up that I had someone make for me. But I've also dressed up as actual Cream before.
Cream, you say?
Yeah.
So how would one dress up as Cream?
You basically just get in a giant cup and you write Cream on it. There's a little window so you can see.
Interesting.
And then you get a really giant person to dress up as Macho and carry you around.
I think I've seen that promo. You would need a very big person, or you.
Cream of the crop.
I was not expecting that. Okay. Cleaning out my eardrums. Okay. Well, apparently you are a big Macho fan. So
I wouldn't say that.
But you like to cosplay as him.
I mean, I do what's necessary.
Okay.
Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do to get the job done, you know.
So when you're cosplaying as Macho Man, do you try to put yourself in his shoes? Do you try to ask yourself like, what would Macho do? What would he think in this situation? Like, are you a method cosplayer, or do you, or not? Like, what is your mindset like?
So I tend to not put myself into his shoes. He was kind of a big guy, and his shoes are too big. It's not very comfortable. They slide around. But I have worn his bandana before.
Hmm. Where did you get his bandana?
There was a button.
Hmm. Okay.
Hmm.
This is not as interesting as I thought. So I think I'm going to take this conversation in a different direction. Although, never mind.
I
That's
feel like
not a.
you're insulting the cosplay community.
No, I'm just insulting you.
That's rude.
Well, maybe get better? Question mark.
At cosplay?
Well, yeah, I was expecting you to go into depth of all this cool stuff. Like, yeah, like I try to envision myself as Macho, and I really get into it. Instead, I just get. Sometimes I wear his bandana
No, dude, I'm not a nerd.
because my next question I was going to ask you about was Stephanie McMahon, and if you liked her as a character.
There's a there's an interesting anagram that can be made, but I feel YouTube's not ready for that. Moving forward.
Okay. I've totally really lost my place with where we're at in the show. But that's okay because, as you said, we are not planning on delivering what you would call high level content.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if people listen this far, the view has probably registered. So at this point, I mean, if they have loved ones that they could spend time with, their time would probably be better suited there.
Yeah, I mean, so he's right. If you got better stuff to do, just click like, subscribe, and share. Just click the button, and then you can do whatever it is you want to do. You've done your part to help with the show. We appreciate it. While you're at it, remember, Big Red, it's delicious.
It really is.
So, this week coming up, there's a lot of stuff coming up. It's going to be a very busy week. It's the last week of the event. The event's going to end 7.5 days from now. So, Monday, well, most likely Monday, just depending on where you are. I'm assuming it'll be Monday for pretty much everyone, just either morning, evening, afternoon kind of thing. Um, there's a bunch of Triumph tours coming up. It's going to feature Razor, Jinder, Farouk, and Trickster Andre. So some rare guys in there, maybe some guys you don't have leveled up very much. So Triumph Tour is probably going to be difficult this week. We also got the Big E event when universes collide. Looks like there's a ton of stuff going on in this. There's a faction blitz. There's a separate blitz that you need specialty tickets for. There's a bunch of different tours. Like the tours, there's some one node tours that Hell Mode will have strapped and metaled opponents. Got a Powerhouse Macho, so the new these are all the new guys, by the way. Powerhouse Macho, Showboat Warrior, Striker Cena, Tech Taker, and Trickster Big E. There's also a 4-node tour going on as well. That's any Macho Man, any Warrior, any Cena, any Undertaker, and any New Day. Hell Mode opponents do not have straps and medals on those, so those should be a lot more friendly for getting it done. So that's all coming up this week with a lot of blitzes and stuff going on. I do want to mention, since there's a coin event going on right now, and some people are starting to recruit the new Triple H, I would hold off on recruiting him till the event goes live because there is some bonus points available for leveling up modern talent guys. So you'll want to save that. It's a cheap 700 points probably, I would assume, when you recruit him. Actually, it's 966. So hold on to him. You'll get an easy 1,000 points towards that. Other than that, I think that's most of what's coming up this week. It's going to be a pretty busy week. Big end to the the monthly. It looks like there's still a lot of Triple H shards available, whether it's the tour that just dropped Sunday today, or the stuff coming up. These Universe Collide tours have some Triple H shards in them too. So if you don't have them yet, don't give up. You should have a good chance at getting them. You got anything to add to the week coming up there, Steve?
Yeah, actually, I was gonna ask you something. So you mentioned the Triumph tours. One of the guys I believe was Razor, if I'm
Mm-hmm.
not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
So Razor is a guy for me that it feels like a lot of other people have him, and he's just some guy that somehow I've never managed to get. Do you have anyone like that?
I know what you're doing. I don't appreciate it, but yes, I do.
I was just I was just trying to ask you a question that I thought the people could relate to, because I mean, a lot of people out here, they're not all top elite rosters like yourself. I mean, not everyone can have everyone. Um, that's particularly going to be unfortunate when we start talking about technicians. But I thought it might be helpful if I could somehow bring you down to the common man and have them relate to you, because right now your numbers they're not great amongst the common folk.
So, yes, there are several older characters still locked behind a paywall, it seems. One of those would be Acro Macho, who I don't have, and it would be one of those available on the Any Macho tour. Um, Trickster Andre has, I think he was the first MP coach, if I'm not mistaken, and I still don't have him, and he's required in the Triumph tour. So, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, Trickster Andre, I mean, no one has him.
Nah, pretty much. Unless I think I wasn't playing, or if I was, I didn't know about it. I think I didn't know about it. Apparently, there was a button called Tapageddon, and you could get a metric butt ton of cash from Tapjoy offers. Wasn't there for that. And then Andre was in a cash mega loot, and lots of people at that time pushed that button and got him. I either wasn't playing or didn't know about it. I don't actually know when Tapageddon happened. I've only heard stories of this momentous occasion.
Now, you also have some people that you don't have that you're just never going to get, don't you? Like people that are no longer um, in polls. Didn't you start late enough to where there's some people that you don't have that just aren't in polls anymore?
Yeah, there's some guys I can't get, so I can never Pokemon and get them all. Let's see, who is it? Both the Dudley boys. Will never be mine.
You will
Ryback.
never experience the joy that is Bubba Dudley.
I won't. No Ryback, so no backpack, whatever. Finisher, stunner, whatever he called that thing. Or whatever the game calls it. No Wade Barrett. No JBL. And I believe the other one would be.
Is JBL not in the game anymore? I mean, you make a good point to where I haven't seen him really in anything lately. But most of the other people, like, they kind of left the company um, and went on to do their own thing. But JBL kind of seemed like it seemed different somehow with him. Like, that seems like a person where it seems kind of odd that they wouldn't still have him randomly and stuff.
I don't know if he pissed the wrong person off or they just let his Legends contract expire or something, but yeah, he's not in the game anymore. You can't get him. And Stardust is the other one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 of the guys I'm missing. 6 of the 35 are not obtainable for me.
So, I mean, really, Barrett, useful as a trainer, and JBL, those are really the two main things. Because the other guys, and yeah, maybe Stardust as a wrestler, but other than that, you're not missing too much.
Yeah, I got Jimmy, who's a little bit worse, JBL, and Mr. T, who's worse and better at the same time because he adds red gem damage. So, could be worse. But for a long time, I did not have Jimmy or Mr. T. Vader also at 9K kind of replaces Barrett. I would like
Yeah.
a chance to get them. Maybe they'll reskin them someday. In JBL's case, I could see him coming back to the game at some point, though, because, like you said, he isn't really off doing his own thing. I'm not sure why he's not in the game.
Yeah, your JBL saltiness makes a lot more sense now.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad it makes sense to you. Um, let's see. I guess we could talk about the Masters of the Universe guys.
Yeah, I think we're at a point now where we've been able to use them a little bit more. I remember at the beginning, we kind of gave our impressions, but now we've had tours and some other things to where we have a pretty good idea now of what maybe they are going to end up being. Um, I know you have your Cena, what, at 3 gold now?
Oh, mine's 4-star gold.
Yeah, 4 star gold, sorry. 3 star gold. Ah, that's sorry. That made me laugh.
I mean, it's okay.
Um,
I get how you could mix that up. I'm sure yours is probably a 3-star gold, right? You don't have yours leveled very far.
mine's 4 star silver right
Oh,
now.
nice.
So yeah, I should. The goal will be to get them to 4 star gold, hopefully in the next week. Um,
Question
but
for you.
honestly, I think realistically, even if for some reason I didn't feel like playing this week, I think he might be someone that I might take to 4 star gold regardless. So I now having played with him, um, I know you have one particular play style that you were advocating. I was not as big a fan of it. It works. It's just one turn more than I would like it to be. So I've been using a different build that I kind of like a little bit better. It's faster but less destructive. So maybe you can talk about your build and then I'll discuss my other build that's a little bit faster.
Sure. So uh where do I want to start? So, oh, that was what I was going to ask you. Did you push the button and did you get the skip turn strap for Cena in the talent up?
Remember, you got distracted by the skip turn belt and didn't press the Triple H button.
I do remember that. I chose the skip turn and then I did not pull Triple H from the bags.
No, which is fine. I mean, it worked out for you.
Yeah, I ended up getting Triple H, and I have the skip turn strap, and I'm sure it worked out fine for you too, right? You have the skip turn strap for Cena and Triple H.
No, because I just finished telling you that I didn't press the skip turn belt because I pressed the Triple H button. You can't press both buttons, dude.
I mean, I see why you're a little bit angry. That's fine. All right, we'll leave it at that. So that could make a difference between, I suppose, why I like this build, but I also see the value in the build you like and see a lot of reason to run it as well. Um, I've also been pretty ahead of the game as far as leveling Cena since mine is 4-star gold already. So I haven't been like behind on the opponent. So that extra turn isn't as big a deal either. So this is the normal way you could run him with trainers everyone's gonna have. I'm showing it on the screen right now. Let me put Bray back on there. So also this would be maybe the hot tag moveset that I would go with. And then Rikishi in this spot, the open coach. So you're going to make 6 protect gems. When I level this yellow move up one more time, instead of 6, it'll be 7. So you can put them all in a line and make all 7. And then if you have Gallows, you can break all 7. The reason I have it set up this way is Gallows is a rare trainer. So without Gallows, everyone probably has NWO Bret. So if you have NWO Bret and Bailey, you can make 6 and break 6. Or with Bailey, you could take Bailey off at that point too, and you'd still make 6 and break 6 when it was maxed. So either way,
Wait, so you don't have Acro Macho or JBL or Gallows?
no, I have Gallows. I just am showing this setup for those that don't have Gallows.
Ah, continue.
Yeah. Um, So you wouldn't need Bailey as his coach at 4-star gold, and you would be able to make 6 and break 6. So that's almost the whole board. Uh, it is. It can be kind of clunky because you're going to need a yellow match and a black match running with Bray and Rikishi. But it is pretty effective, and a striker blown up the whole board is high damage. It's also good for a hot tag. Um, Now, the way that you run him is the way I would run him for feud. And also, there is, I think, a multi-directional perk, so I don't know how that might affect the potential of running his red move set. It is random row breaks and stuff, but maybe the red move set looks a little more viable, although it won't be turn 1 in feud. So I still think your build would probably be the way I would feud with him, and your build will be more consistent. Not as much high end damage potentially, but you're gonna get it a lot more consistent. So yeah, go ahead and you can talk about your build.
Yeah, so I mean, I was running similar to how you were running it, and the main problem that I didn't like was that, as you mentioned, you have to get the yellow and the red. So if you get one and not the other, then you're just kind of sitting there a couple extra turns waiting for it to fill on its own, which isn't a huge thing, but just not my favorite. So whenever you have to fill two separate colors, that definitely makes things a little bit trickier in terms of potentially getting bad boards, because now basically you're doubling the chance of getting a bad board since you got to fill two colors. So to negate that a little bit, running just both yellows, I'm using zombie to destroy extra with that yellow move.
Did,
It's also going to buff the. Say
did you?
again?
Oh, did you say Zombie Nakamura? I didn't hear the second part of that.
Yeah, zombie Nakamura.
Okay.
So he's going to destroy extra gems and also buff the yellow damage a little bit, which isn't going to be a huge thing, but whatever. So the benefit of that is that with either tour perks or in a feud situation, that yellow is going to be ready turn 1, and as long as your board isn't completely dry of blacks, you should be able to destroy enough blacks to where you might even be able to fill up the black move as well. Worst case scenario, if it doesn't fill up, usually you get to within 1 to where your next turn, your other things are going to be ready to go. So the other thing that maybe some people may not like as much, I actually kind of enjoy it. I find that it's fun. Is that you have to be more careful with the placement of the gems. Now, if you have a 4 break that's setting up a column break, well then yeah, it's easy. You just put them all in the same column, do your column break, and then break all of them. Otherwise, you're going to have to set up your own cascades. So the easiest way to do that is typically you're going to need to break 3 in a column and then use row breaks on 1 or 2 of those, and then that row is going to kick out some gems, and then you're going to need to have cascade and put the row breaks on the gems that cascade into each other after the initial break, and then it's going to break some more. And yeah, you end up breaking maybe 5 to 6 rows that way. So it's not the whole board, but it's still a good chunk of the board. A lot of times that's going to recycle your moves or at least come very close to it. And then you're able to do it again. So it's going to be someone that's going to be pretty fast in feuds. In tag, it's going to be someone that's useful for refilling. So not only is he refilling your moves, but remember, it's also getting a lot of off color gems, which when you make the tag, whether you start with him or whether he's the tag partner, especially for people now that have Triple H, if you do need to tag him in, he's going to be able to do some moves and fill up all Triple H's moves again. So yeah, he's gonna do a lot of good things, and the fact that he does have that turn 1 speed, I think, brings him up into a level where a lot of strikers that are considered very good, they are very good, but they're not turn one in feud. So it's an extra little layer of something that, you know, if you do choose to use them, depending on what the requirements are or whatever, he's someone handy to have. So if for some reason I am short on the bits, I think I should have enough, but if for some reason I'm a couple short, yeah, it's he's probably someone that I'm going to level to 4-star gold. And I believe the rumor is that at 5-star he gets a submission, so that's adding more versatility to him. So yeah, the more I've played with him, the more I've gotten to like him. And for sure, if you get to a point where you don't need him to be turn one, you could still run him. Uh, like I said, if you're running him as the hot tag, then yeah, it makes sense to run him probably Mherex's way.
So I'll piggyback on that with a couple other reasons why I think he's very viable. The build set you're talking about in particular too. Let's take my love for Fandango and combine it with your love for this build, and say, you get your yellow match turn 1 for Dango, turn 2 you you hit your purple move, and you make a bunch of yellows, and you do your finisher, and somehow they manage to kick out. Well, crap. Maybe not crap, because now you tag in Cena here, and you hit the yellow button, and you make every protect gem on the board a row break gem, and now you can destroy 7 black gems if your black isn't full. And there's probably a lot of row breaks on the blacks, so not a bad hot tag for Dango. Also, Cena is a modern era striker, which there's not a lot of good ones, and the really good ones are very rare. So Tyler Breeze and Luke Harper. So there's a good chance Cena's your best modern era striker, so he fills an era there. And if you don't have Zombie Cena, he is for sure your best Cena, and he will meet any Cena requirement. So I think the goal for everyone probably should be at least 4-star bronze. After 4-star bronze, it'll depend on your resources. If you have the resources, I do think this is a guy that is probably definitely worth taking to 4-star gold in a token-free environment. So I don't think a lot of people have played with him a lot. They are basing their experiences with his tour, and the hell mode on the tour in particular has had a lot of strapped up opponents. So if your Cena is a little bit behind the curve, it's not going to perform as well, and the 4-star movesets are where he gets really interesting, in my opinion. So if you haven't messed with these two movesets in particular, I would recommend doing it and giving a hard look and deciding how far you want to take him. He is a lot better than people are saying, but his moveset is maybe not super straightforward, so you should mess around with it and experiment with it. That's kind of my take on Cena there. Do you have anything else to add, Kevin?
No, I mean, like you said, especially if you're having to set up the cascades like that. I mean, if that's not the game style that you like, then you're not gonna enjoy. If you don't like thinking while you're matching your pretty gems, then the setup of cascading into cascades isn't going to be something that's probably going to be something for you. But in general, I would say, at least recently, all of these new people that they've been giving you that you can level without using tokens have all been fairly above average, and some of them have been extremely good. So you see a lot of people asking the question, "Oh, well, how far should I take this guy?" Or, is this guy worth taking to 4-star? Is he worth taking the 4-star gold? Whatever. I'm kind of to the point where I feel like if you're looking at things really big picture, you should probably take him as far as you can get there for free.
Yep.
Because, I mean, yeah, it's going to take you coins and it's going to take you TP, but you're eventually going to get more coins in TP. I mean, yeah, it's going to slow down some of your other things. So if you have like a complete game changer, someone that's going to completely, change the level that you're going to be able to compete at, like if you happen to have a tech that's actually good, more on that later, then yeah, maybe focus on those guys. But if you're debating between some guy that's your second trickster or your 17th powerhouse, then it's probably not going to be too big of a deal to wait an extra month or whatever it takes to get that guy where you want to get him. I mean, free is free. And, you know, I know Mherex, your thing, get whatever you can for free there. So that would be my advice. If you can get someone to a certain point and you can do it for free, you might as well. Especially lately, because the guys that they've been above average to extremely good.
Yeah, for sure. I think Cena's definitely worth leveling, worth taking up. The free guys have been very good. Don't A lot of times people just say someone's trash and that starts that way and then continues that way, and it's not really accurate. I'm gonna try and release some gameplay with both of these move sets later this week, so hopefully before the end of the event, so you can decide how far to take him. So I'll hopefully try and get some gameplay out for you with both of these move sets later this week. So you want to just real quick talk about the other guys a little bit. I know neither of us have Powerhouse Macho, and nobody probably has the new Undertaker. From what I can tell, based on how factions
he is a phantom. I mean, that makes sense.
It does. And if you look at the faction events for the shards and where people are at and stuff, it's not looking too good for most everyone, really. So even the second milestone at 73,000, there's a chance that no faction will hit the second to last milestone, and that one's 730 shards per. I'm in a pretty big faction, and the most shards in mine is 980 shards for Taker out of 1,600.
Yeah, and you would have to average that to get the last one.
Yes, exactly.
Which is kind of a bummer. I would have liked that Volkov gear.
Yeah, the Volkov gear or the skill plate, or the stun strap. But yeah, what are you gonna do?
For the record, if I disappear abruptly during the podcast, it's because one person actually pulled me and I had to go to their roster.
That's understandable. I don't think we're in danger of that happening, though.
Yeah, just public service announcement. As a phantom, I tend to disappear abruptly, and I didn't want you to get scared.
Okay. I appreciate the heads up. So, to my knowledge, from what I've heard, one person got him from a bag. I didn't see the screenshot of that. From polls, it's sounding like almost no one is getting him, and also very few shards out of the polls. So I think the only people really that are probably going to get him are going to be from the leaderboard in the solo contest, the top 10. So I don't expect to see a lot of the Phantom out there, just like there's hardly any of the Powerhouse Macho.
Now we kind of, I'd like to finish off Phantom here, but I do want to mention, because even though we don't have him, I feel it's relevant to mention how ridiculous Powerhouse Macho is, which shouldn't be a surprise because he's a powerhouse.
Right.
Therefore, he is inherently good.
Yeah, they took a lot of some of the cool movesets from a lot of different cards and slapped him on Macho. He's got an insane bleed. He's got an MP color up. More importantly, he's got a long sub. More importantly to me, he has a choose move that does not move the pin bar. So you can basically use the choose move to create a bunch of wild cards, not moving the pin bar, recycle the choose move, and just do it all over again and again and again. And the choose is his primary color. So, yeah, I think as far as from a power standpoint, he is probably the best powerhouse in the game. Not the fastest. But like as far as being able to do and win and dish out damage, I think he's probably the best powerhouse in the game. A lot of different fun builds. I think Earthquake with gear is going to be faster, and I think Hogan. Hogan is interesting. I don't. Those three are the cream of the crop, for sure. And I think Earthquake. Not again. All right. If you're done with your role play, your venture into machoism, back to the show.
I mean, I haven't even ventured into machoism. Is that what we want to do?
No, I can only imagine the Slim Jim references, so no.
Dig it.
Oh dear Lord, save us.
You mentioned macho maybe not the fastest. He could also just win 97% of your matches on turn 2. Is that fast enough for you?
Well, so yeah, he's gonna win a bunch of them turn 2, but he's also gonna win a bunch turn 1 with that choose move. It's just you're gonna have to recycle it and set it up.
So the reason, so I'm not even talking about the choose move. I want to talk about the bleed sub combo.
Of course you do.
Because I think that is just completely uncalled for.
I mean, it's funny. It's ridiculously funny. Don't get me wrong. I would use it a bunch just to LOL laugh. That bleed doing all that damage, and into the sub that lasts like 2,000 turns. So yeah.
So
great character.
Yeah. So for the people that maybe don't know what we're talking about, he has a bleed move that has a percentage of doing an insanely high amount of damage, except that it's not going to do that high amount every turn, right? So he's kind of like Drew in that way. Yes.
Yes,
but Drew's bleed. How many turns is Drew's bleed?
It's 2 or 3 with like a 15% chance or 20, and I think Macho's is like 25%. For 8 turns.
10 turns.
Yeah, 10 when it's maxed. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And the sub is also 10 turns.
Yep.
So much like Fiend, you can put the bleed and it does bleed damage during the sub. So both of those moves are blue. So you do your bleed move, you do the sub, and they're both 10 turns. So basically, you have 10 turns where you're just waiting to see which of the turns is it going to do the comical amount of bleed damage. And yeah, you're going to win because of the ridiculous bleed damage roughly 98% of the time. And that's assuming you're, going against someone that's equal competition. I mean, if you're going against people that are lower than yours, a lot of times if the bleed move goes off once, the match is going to be immediately over if that bleed move just goes off once. So if you haven't seen 5-star gameplay, I would go check that out. It's quite hilarious. Obviously we don't know if that's how things are going to stay in terms of the amount of damage that they do, but yeah, it's unfortunate. He's a guy that, because of my affinity towards sub, I would probably use him as a sub guy because yeah, I don't see any situation where he's ever going to lose a match using that build.
He's really good. I wish I had him. I prefer the pin bar thing, just because of that, but either moveset's incredible. He's super powerful. I wish I had him. If I got the Cosmic Key, there would be no question which one I would take. I would take him in a heartbeat before Taker. He's way better.
No. So, I don't even know what Taker does, to be honest with you. Like, you were very nice to do all the math for us, and once I realized there was absolutely no chance of getting him, I didn't watch the videos. I didn't do anything. So, I don't even know what he does. So, I'm just going to take your word that he's very good.
He is very good.
Is he better than Kofi?
No.
Then it doesn't matter.
Yeah, he's not better than Kofi. I don't think he's better than Black. He's super powerful, very strong. He's got three choose moves, um, that are fairly low charge, but you got to set him up. It makes him slow when you do that.
Do they
He's
move the pin bar?
Yes, they move the pin bar.
Okay.
Yeah, so
So
he's
do
not.
they feed in, they feed into each other, I assume?
Yes, they feed into each other, which feeds
Mm.
into the other choose moves. But the problem is you're causing, if you're setting up a choose move, you're causing a pin, and you're not going to
Yeah.
win the match with one choose on attack.
He sounds like Del Rio.
Um, that kind of build would be similar to Del Rio without a sub, or Razar, as a lot of you know him. The move set that
I do not recognize. That's
okay.
it. I don't recognize.
Okay, so the move set that's probably his best is the 7 MP red move that lets you choose purple gems to fill the purple. And then the purple is choose 3 gems to make into X break gems. So, something like that. Those two in combination with something else.
All right.
That's probably
That's
the
fair.
way to go with them. I would probably
Del Rio doesn't make X break gems. I'll give you that.
Yeah. So his finisher is also pretty cool. It looks really fun, the animation. He chooses 5 rows to make into botch gems. It's not a super strong finisher, though. So you're going to have to do some stuff from there again. There's a move he gets that makes botch gems into green gems. That gets you back to the finisher that makes botch gems. And then he's got, choose green if you want to use that. Basically, long and the short, he's a very strong character. He's very good. He's not going to be super fast. He's not going to beat you with one cycle through the moves usually. So he won't lose. He'll win a lot. It'll take a while doing it. So I would put him beneath, for sure, beneath Kofi and Black in that next group of guys that are rare and good.
So I guess that kind of segues us nicely into technicians in general. I guess begrudgingly, we should talk about technicians, apparently.
Yeah. I mean, we have to at some point talk about techs. To me, the class is very much either you have Kofi or Black, or there's every other tech in the game. I don't have I don't have Kofi or Black, but even that,
Loser.
yeah.
Sorry.
No,
Sorry, did I say that out loud?
it's fine.
I apologize.
It's fine. But even that being said, there's another tier past Kofi that are lower than Kofi and Black of a bunch of solid to really, really good techs as well.
Very good.
Yes.
Yes, techs in that second tier.
They are also extremely rare, though. So maybe you have one of those guys. Maybe you have 2. There's a good chance you have none. After those 2 sets of guys, there's the rest of the techs, and there's maybe 3 or 4 guys that are, I would say, somewhat commonish, that are pretty good. A lot of them need Razar, and some of the top ones need Razar too. So it's probably the heaviest paywall locked class for the top tier, I would say, in my opinion.
So let's not spend too much time then talking about the really top tier guys, because if you have one of them, chances are you probably already use them. But just for the sake of completeness, so you mentioned Kofi and Black being the cream of the crop, he said calmly.
Yes.
Now, after that, you got your second tier. So there we're looking at the Champas, Brunos, Gargano, for example. Who else would you put in that tier?
The new Taker and Wolfpack Sting.
Yeah. Wolfpack Sting is interesting to me because after looking at the technician class, I didn't realize how bad it actually was.
You're
I
not
don't know if
you're not
I
far
don't know
off.
if that's a hot take. I don't know if that's a hot take.
I
So
I don't disagree with you. Like you either have the top or it's pretty rough.
on the plus side, though, if you don't have the top, the people that you probably should level there's not a lot to choose from. So it kind of makes your decisions kind of easy.
Yeah.
So you mentioned texting, Wolfpack Sting.
Yes.
So I know you've made videos for him. There's a couple ways you can use them. I really like him as well. He was the last person that you mentioned, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you think he's at the bottom of that tier.
I definitely don't think he's at the
Yeah,
bottom of the tier.
yeah. I think he's super good. He can recycle very well. Uh, he has a health steal. He has a submission. Like there's a lot of things that you can do with him. So if you don't have him, so for the people that don't know, Mherex, how do you get Wolfpack Sting?
Showdown coins. I believe it's 10,000 for 50 shards, and what is his unlock? 1,200, I think it was.
Yeah. So it's not one button. You're gonna have to press several buttons. This is gonna be you're gonna be in this for the long haul if you do decide to try to get texting. But honestly, if you don't have one of these other guys and you're not someone that's doing a lot of pulls or spending a lot of money, or if you're just not familiar with the button, like if you're not smart enough to press the button, then you're not going to get one of those other guys. So if you happen to see a Wolfpack Sting in the wild, you should try to apprehend it because eventually you're going to get him. And if you don't have Kofi or Black, he's probably immediately going to be your best tech.
Yeah, you definitely use your Ultra Ball on him if you see him.
No. So, with that being said, I feel there are, let's see here, one, two, three. There are five kind of texts that I think are really worth mentioning in terms of people to use. There's a couple of trainers in there, but let's go by the linchpin to many of them. Let's talk about Alberto Del Rio.
Rizar, yes.
So you mentioned earlier that a lot of techs are going to need him for his trainer ability. So he
Yes.
makes additional green gems. Then at 9K, he also becomes a 1 blue MP coach, which helps out a couple of tricksters as well. Not tricksters, technicians. Um, so that's someone that's going to be super useful for a lot of your guys. So no matter who you have, um, if you have Del Rio, I think you need to try to get him to 5K for sure. Then maybe get your primary guy where he needs to be. And then depending on who he is, you probably need to get Del Rio to 9K as well. How do you feel about Del Rio in general?
Yeah, Rizar is definitely a key trainer. You got to get him to 5K once you get him. Mine is at 9K. Depending on the top of your roster for Tex, you could make an argument he might be viable as one to take to 4-star gold as one of those guys. Um, he's not better than the ones we previously mentioned. Those guys are the top. But after that, there's a little more room to play. Yeah, they're the cream of the crop, yes. And they rose to the top.
Yeah.
So he's very strong. He's got a couple chooses, and he chooses into a sub, recycles super well because you're choosing and can set stuff up, and the sub's going to slow him down. So it's a very strong character, amazing trainer in general, great 9K ability, very needed character for a lot of the technician class.
So let's talk about here some of these guys that if you don't have a top guy and you do have Razor, some of the people that are going to be able to benefit from him, but not necessarily that you have to have. So one of them is sweet, sweet Randy Orton. So Orton is someone who I think early on got a lot of love in the 4-star transition. I have him at 4-star gold. I think he's incredible for feud because he has two purples that are ready to go. That's not to say that you necessarily should use him every feud, but he's very strong, especially we talked about for feud. You want a guy that's going to be able to wipe out people that are lower level than him turn one. If you're using Del Rio on Orton, you're doing choose green, very high number wing. You can win a lot of matches turn one that way. And then if not, you still have that strong RKO to finish them off with. So that's going to be one person immediately that benefits from Del Rio. I know a lot of people prefer to run um, maybe the green move damage coaches on him. Do you have a preference either way on that?
It really depends what might be in line bonuses, who I'm fighting, how quick I want to be. So if you're picking on lower guys or low hit point guys, I love just setting up 3 matches, getting to the finisher, and dropping that on them. You get the botch gems out there too. Your finisher, you throw the move damage guy on it. You're probably at 4-star gold, 70-80K. If you might be a guy I would consider throwing the takedown set of straps on if you're going to run him that style. You get a green move damage tier 4 on him. You're going to add 30% to that, and no one really is running padded gems, so you could easily find yourself doing 100K finishers turn one. So yeah, there's a lot of ways you can go with them. You can go with the choose. You can go try to get to the finisher soon. You can run the green gem damage trainers or green move damage trainers on them. You can stack them up.
One of
So
the one of the things I want to do at some point, I'm probably waiting to get him as a fuse or something, is Mark Henry at 9K. So Mark Henry at 9K, so he creates extra botch gems or destroys extra botch gems.
mm-hmm.
So, but I believe once you get him to 9K, the botch gems that you destroy also do additional damage, 25% extra damage. So you mentioned how depending on perks and things like that, that you can fill up the finisher kind of quick. If you were using him, let's say, because purple is a very hungry color. Like there's a lot of really good guys that use purple. So you could run him, let's say, as a turn 2 guy instead of a turn 1. One purple match with feud perks. Both purples are going to be ready to go. And then you have all sorts of options. You could run double green damage because there's 2 green damage trainers, Goldust and Kevin Owens. You can make the RKO really big. Or you could create extra botch gems and destroy extra botch gems, and then now have those extra botch gems do extra damage to possibly have higher cascade, higher kind of just general chaos on the board, which I haven't run the math. I don't know if it's necessarily better, but I think it'd be funnier.
It would definitely be funnier. You probably be making like 15, 16 if you had Arn Anderson botch gems and destroying probably close to that with the finisher.
Yeah.
You could also be really annoying and toss Arn Anderson and Bret on him. Make 20 random botch gems, choose into the finisher, and drop the finisher with the board riddled in botch gems too. You could maybe just do Arn Anderson and still use your purple MP trainer, throw out 15 botches, choose to the finisher, drop the finisher, and see if they can kick out. I mean, there's a lot of different fun stuff you could do with Orton. I think 5-star bronze will probably end up being interesting for him again because I loved him when perks and feuding first started. I know you and I feuded a bunch, and we would just laugh at we literally would RKO the world. It was just RKO, 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 and no one kicking out. It was a lot of fun. He's not that powerful now, but there are some things you could maybe do with him and still viable and fun. And then
Yeah.
I would also be interested to throw a takedown strap on him with a 15% bonus, and if you could get a tier 4 green move damage in the takedown set, that would add an additional 30%. So you'd have that 45%. If you had a 5k Goldust, you'd have another 45%. So you're just with those two, your RKO, you're going to be, pushing what 100 plus k just from those two. And then you could still use the choose move, or you could still use Woods and get to it quicker. So Orton is definitely a guy to consider if you don't have those top tier guys.
Yeah. You can do a lot of different things with a lot of different trainers. Like, there's a lot of people that, you hear, oh, well, you really need this one trainer for him to be really good. Good thing about Orton is that you can run him a couple of different ways depending on what trainers you have, or just what trainers you feel like using. Maybe you want to use a certain trainer. So he has a lot of flexibility. Yeah, he's someone definitely, if you don't have one of these top tier guys, one of the few targets out there for 4-star gold, I feel. Um,
Yeah.
Another person that kind of can be run a couple of different ways that can benefit from Rezar. Is that how you pronounce it? Rezar?
Rezar,
Del Rio.
Rezar.
So you can also put Del Rio on Bret Hart if you so choose. Again, with the point that you're trying to just finish the match a little bit faster on lower level opponents, he has a choose green. How do you feel about Bret Hart?
He's definitely in this same tier we're talking about. If you have his gear, I think it makes him a lot more interesting. That was just available on a daily offer. It's gonna add 2 to the choose. So that gives him a little more options too. So then you're choosing 5 instead of 3. Um, I think his best set is probably going the botch route. So throw in like Arn Anderson on him with Lawler, and then choosing to the spike pile driver and dropping a bunch of, choosing like, what is it going to be, like 10, 12 botches. Although the finisher and the botch bonus probably isn't enough to keep people down in the 4-star gold game. Although if they don't get a cascade, you will. But if they get a cascade, I think it's probably over. And you most likely haven't recycled very well and nothing to slow them down. So there's a reason why these guys aren't in the top tier we're talking about. And his reason would be he not always going to keep people down. But throw a strap on him, run him double armor, and maybe it gets a little more interesting since he's a botch guy. But yeah, he's in the tier where you would consider him if you don't have those top guys.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have one of those top guys, and let's say he's one of your favorite dudes, sure, go ahead. It's not going to hurt anything.
Correct.
Now a couple of guys that don't really need Del Rio. Let's start with the guy you love. Tell us about your secondary man crush, Mr. Perfect.
So Perfect recycles pretty dang well. His finisher hits insanely wimpily. Gets until probably 4-star gold. Main problem is his blue gem damage is super light until you get to 4-star gold. It gets up to 3,000 at 4-star gold. At 4-star silver, it's only 1,700. So finisher's a little light. His starting move is 6 MP. As long as you got purples on the board, you're into the knife edge chop, which is 7 green MP. The downside is his finisher is 11. I think at 4-star gold, the knife edge chop does 8, though, if I'm not mistaken. So in feud, you would still be turn 1. However, that does mean on the recycle, you may not be to the finisher again, and you're going to need to recycle. So that's kind of his downside is a little bit of weak gem damage on the finisher, and you may not be able to get all the way through the cycle the second time. That being said, he's very fast, and Lawler probably isn't in use on a ton of your guys, and the other trainer would be Powerhouse Harper, and he definitely isn't in use on a lot of your other guys. So pretty flexible on trainer and that kind of thing. Finisher probably isn't hard enough, and then can run into some issue on the second recycle sometimes.
Yeah, so I mean he's solid. He flows into his moves pretty well, and yeah, like you said, my biggest problem with him has always been the fact that it doesn't flow right into the finisher. If it flowed directly into the finisher, I would probably like him a lot more, and I'd be less kind of taken back by the very pathetic finisher. But like you said, it does get better at 4-star gold. But yeah, he's always been a guy that for me, like, yeah, I get it, I see it. It's just not for me. So I have him, but he's completely unleveled. He's probably not someone that I'm gonna work on anytime soon. But again, if you don't have one of these top guys and you don't have Del Rio, well, now you're starting to look at, you know, other situations. So, Mr. Perfect, if you don't have a top guy and you don't have Del Rio, Mr. Perfect's going to be one of your options.
Yeah, there's.
Another option, or sorry, did you have more to say about Mr.
Oh
Perfect?
no, I was just gonna say there's probably two options, and I'm sure that's who you're gonna talk about now.
Yeah, we're getting there. So the other guy that I like more, because he's more versatile, is going to be Mherex fan favorite Doink the Clown. Mherex, take it away. I'm gonna let you do the whole Doink segment.
He's a clown, and he has a sub. Under no circumstance should you ever level him. The only reason mine is 4-star gold is I got a fuse.
Is that the end of the segment?
Yeah, I think I was pretty clear.
I don't think pretty clear is the word I would use.
He's a clown.
I mean, that doesn't make him inherently bad.
He's ridiculous. Do you really want to play this game with a clown?
I mean, there's all sorts of ridiculous people in the game.
Yeah, none of them are clowns.
Maybe they should be.
No.
Maybe the game would be a happier place if there were more clowns.
No one's happy about using Doink. They only use him because he's their option.
I think there are people that are happy using Doink.
Only Doink?
I don't think Doink uses Doink.
Exactly.
I think Doink stopped. I think Doink. I think Doink stopped playing the game at the 4-star transition.
Well, yeah, he got. Never mind. We don't talk about that.
But are you really not going to talk about Doink?
No, I don't want to talk about him. He's a clown. You talk about him.
Fine. Such a baby.
Whatever.
So Doink is very good. He's very versatile. He has a submission that can be turn 1.
Yeah.
So for a feud setting, that's going to be very helpful. As Mherex mentioned, Lawler isn't someone that's going to be used on a lot of people. So the fact that his submission is blue is also a benefit.
Meh.
So for feud, we talked about how having at least one turn 1 sub guy is very important. So depending on where your other MP trainers need to be, Doink is someone that, is an option there as your turn 1 submission guy for feud. Now, for regular gameplay, his moves chain into each other extremely well. I think the biggest complaints that people could have against Doink are that he might cause a pin when you don't want him to, just because he's breaking a lot of gems, doing a lot of things. And then there's some people that think that his moves cost too much. So in a situation like Showdown, um, I would maybe tend to agree. So, for example, his moves cost 9. So you're not going to get there turn 1. You're not even going to get there turn 2 in Showdown. But once you're there, basically, you're going to keep doing your moves until you get a pin. So he creates gems, he breaks gems. Depending on the trainers you have, if you have, what is it, JBL to break the extra,
Yeah,
destroy the
JBL
extra gems?
or Jimmy.
Yeah. So if you have one of those, it becomes a lot easier. So moves where you can choose what gems to destroy. Again, if you take the time to really look at the board, see what's going on, you could do a lot of really nice things with that. So I prefer using him that way. Uh, if I'm using that move set, you also have the option to just make things easy and do purple damage. You're running a couple of purple moves, so you could run them that way as well. But overall, yeah, very very solid. And I would say if you don't have Del Rio and you don't have one of the top guys, I think he's probably the guy that you should be targeting as your primary user. And I know that hurts Mherex deep down in his soul, but it's how I feel. And I'm not going to
The
change the way how I feel for you.
the only
Never again.
the only possible rebuttal I have to that is since we're talking about a 9 MP charge guy, is maybe you use Rick Rude instead, but he needs Razar. So yeah, Doink honestly, unfortunately, makes a lot of sense. I apologize if he is your best option and you're using a stupid clown. However, don't use him in Showdown because he is just a sitting duck. It's way too slow, and they don't do enough. Techs don't do enough gem damage, so everyone and their brother's going to come at you. But
Yeah, I mean,
it
he's
is what it
someone.
is.
If you wanted to put him in the back as a hot tag, I mean, coming in with multiple moves ready against the guy that you just did some damage to but couldn't finish off, I think that's not horrible.
Sure, like a hot tag type of thing
Yeah,
situation.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you got the purple. You got the purple moves there, so you could like tag him with maybe even, let's say, Z Austin. You tag him in, your purples are full, although maybe for some reason you weren't able to keep him stunned, I don't know.
yeah.
Choose your 5 reds into greens and then break stuff and you know, load up the scoop slam, make some cascades, whatever, yeah, he's got like we said, Tex, it's the top, and then it's kind of everyone else. Each of them have their own flaws. That's why they're not at the top. But of the not top guys, sadly, Doink is probably the best.
Yeah. And then honorable mentions. We talked about these on our last podcast, so I'm not going to go too in depth. But Kurt Angle and Chad Gable, I think those are probably honorable mentions in the tech category, where if you really wanted to level them, maybe level them after one of these other guys. Yeah, I mean they do some interesting things. We don't have to go too in depth to it. If you want to hear more about them, check out last week's podcast.
Yeah, I would say those two would be a potential honorable mention. Maybe Jake the Snake, maybe Joe, like I just mentioned, Rick Rude. But it gets pretty slim pickings pretty fast after that. So after that, we're mostly down to coaches you should level, trainer abilities, that kind of thing. To be
Yeah,
perfectly
one
honest.
and to be honest with you, if you're down at that level, a guy that you'll probably hear a bunch of people telling you not to level, but if that's where you're at now, I think Stardust is probably, once you're at that tier, I think you should start looking at Stardust again
Only if you
because go ahead.
only if you have Rizar. But yes,
Correct. Yes, if you have Rizar.
although
So go ahead.
I would say I would probably do Rizar over Stardust because of the nerf to green gem damage. However, with a 9k Rizar, both of his moves are turn 1, so you're going to spam the board with some random greens and then you're going to choose into it.
Yeah,
So certainly an option.
yeah. And again, with Rizar, he would also be turn 1 feud. So again, he adds some versatility. He adds, someone that's usable in some different gameplay. Probably not a guy that should be your primary focus, but again, if you're down here to where you're trying to figure out, let's say you've never pulled perfect, let's say you have a morbid fear of clowns, and I don't know, you're a bad person, so you don't like Orton either. Like,
Maybe you think Rick Rude was too risque, so you won't use Rick Rude?
I mean, who doesn't like a Jerry curl and abs?
Right? Those are,
Yeah, I mean that.
I mean, I have a
I
Jerry
mean,
curl right now.
yeah,
Straight
I
up.
mean with with the current situation, I think a large percentage of our male audience has a Jerry curl now because no one's gotten a haircut in 17 months.
Right. I've
So
actually, full disclosure, I've looked into a Jerry curl on my back hair.
it's gross, dude.
That's what I was going for.
I feel I feel about your comment right now like you feel about Doink.
That seems fair.
Like that's what you just did to me right now.
I feel like almost, actually, we could almost end the show right now, and I would be super happy because of that result. We're not going
We
to.
have we have things to talk about still. So all of this, we I didn't want to talk about Tex. I'm talking about Tex because I care about Mherex and I care about his audience. And you know what? We had to talk about Tex at some point. So here I am talking about these useless, terrible texts. So instead of that, let's take a moment to once again tell people, now that we've talked about some people that you might have, tell them about Wolfpack Sting and tell them about why he's way better than most of the people we were forced to just talk about.
I will do that in a moment. I have to call out and say that I'm super thirsty and I'm about to take a nice big drink of a super delicious Big Red.
Big Red, it's delicious.
It really is. Okay. Now that we've
Oh, good.
satisfied, yep. Oh, all right, nice. Now that we've satisfied our sponsorly obligations, Wolfpack Sting. So before I go in
Are
depth
those
in,
like conjugal obligations?
no, not at
No.
all.
Okay.
No.
Continue.
Do we want to call out some guys you might want to level for trainer before we go to Wolfpack Sting, or should we do that after Wolfpack Sting?
I think we should do that after because
I'm
I'm
sick of
tired about
talking.
I'm
Yeah.
tired about talking to people about people that aren't good.
Okay. So Wolfpack Sting. Um, you should be trying to get him because unless you have Tech Black or Kofi, you don't have anyone better. You might have some. Yes, I'm not gonna be able to get used to that. You're not coming back to the show. Um,
Aw.
it's fine. No one will miss you. Don't worry about it. Um, so unless you have Black or Kofi, you don't have anyone better. You might have a couple as good, but you're not going to have anyone better. So it's a long journey. I feel like it's worth it. Super versatile. You can run a bajillion and one move sets. This particular one I have up on my screen, you're probably not ever going to lose with. The only downside is it's 8 MP to get started. So you would basically just throw Akam on there and the sub, make the sub longer. If you have Bruno, great. This is my hot tag build for him. Does a ton of sub damage, heal off of the sub. You're choosing areas so you cannot cause pin with the yellow. You can set up a wild card match, get another match, just do a ton of stuff. Great versatile build set. little bit faster, not as good control. You swap out the sub for the Stinger Splash, which is the health steal. Um, throw in Z Balor instead of Bruno. You throw in, if you have Z Rock, now you're doing like a 30k health steal, and you're cycling sometimes all 3 moves in a turn. He's really phenomenal. You can also run him with the 2 purple moves. Don't need an MP trainer. Some really funny stuff you can do with this. Make 3 random red gems into green gems. If you're, say, fighting a Hogan, you have the class advantage. You put Rizar on there. There's never going to be red gems on the board for Hogan, so he's going to have a heck of a time turning multi-gems into anything useful for him. So excellent Hogan counter. And you could even put that 1 MP on with both of the greens. You can put it on with both purples and one of the greens. Just so many things you can do with Sting. Super versatile. Really can lock guys down. Can heal a lot. It's very strong. Get off a bunch of moves. None of his moves hit super hard, but they all hit pretty well, except his sub. If sub with Bruno hits very, very hard. I love him. He's super fun to use, and we haven't even talked about the fact that he's a dual MP coach. Red +2, black +1. I found that useful lots of times. I put a skip turn strap on mine because he was my best tech for a very, very long time. I think Ciampa might be as good, just different. So yeah, really play the long view with Sting, especially if you're free to play or low spending. It's probably be a very long time before you get a better tech than Sting, so he's worth the investment. Go for him, in my opinion.
One thing that I would want to add to that is I think he's even worth getting if you do have one of the top guys. Like, let's say you already have Kofi, you already have Black, whatever. Because once you get him, you get him immediately at 4-star. So it's not like you're getting him at 3-star or something. And if you level his moves, he becomes someone that's excellent for blitzing. So we've talked before about how Eddie Guerrero, Acrobat, is kind of one of these amazing blitz guys if you can afford to keep him at level 1. Tech Sting is going to give you a lot of those similar qualities if you were to keep him low leveled. So let's say you don't really need him, but I mean, what else are you going to do with those? So every day you're buying the color bits, you're buying the TP, maybe buying a random token every now and then. Yeah, if you don't have him, I think there's really no good reason not to get him because he's an extremely good tech, and if you already have a good tech, you could just occasionally, just whenever you see him, just get the shards. Eventually he'll pop up, and then as soon as he pops up, you put him in, level his moves, put him in with a bunch of fodder, with the health steal and with the moves that chain into each other. Very simple to win, and you'll be able to mow through blitzes very easily like that. So maybe you don't have Guerrero, or you have Guerrero and you leveled him up already. I think 4-star unleveled with fully leveled moves is something that, especially once you get at your roster at a very high level where you've already, you got your fighters, you got your trainers, that's a very nice luxury to have. So once you get to that point, that would be something that I would recommend start looking.
Oh yeah, he definitely is an insanely good unleveled blitzer. He's an insanely good leveled blitzer too. With blitz perks, a lot of time that yellow move is turn 1, so the blitz that we just had for Tex, I used him a bunch and didn't have to use any health packs, even fully leveled. He's a phenomenal character in general.
So the moral of the tech story is Wolfpack Sting is probably better than everyone you have. So you should try to get him.
And even if he's not better, he's insanely useful, so you should try to get him.
Yeah. Speaking of insanely useful, um, two guys you haven't mentioned at all that I think they're pretty good, and I think they're really good coaches. Why do you hate the DX guys, dude? What's going on?
Uh, they're renters. You have to pay to keep them. I
Oh,
have
I
it.
thought I thought I thought you meant they didn't own property.
Hmm, I'm sure they own property. I mean,
So then they're not renters.
fine. I don't have time to debate your silliness. They're solid. They're actually pretty solid in general. Um, I would not put either of them top tier with those guys that are the really, really good guys. But I think both of them,
Cream of the crop.
yes. Um, I think both of them are going to be as useful, more useful, better suited than especially, if you got their gear from the vault and that stuff, than the doinks and that stuff. But um,
Honestly,
the
their best use is their coaching ability.
yeah, HBK with the purple is really handy, and so is Triple H with the green. It's hard to swallow like $50 for just H. I would love one day to see um, the levels of the sub. So like you buy the $50 one and you get all of them. I would pay the $50 to get all of them, and think that was good value. As it is right now, I don't do Triple H anymore. And I see that probably being the case for the very long foreseeable future. No gripes if that's how you decide you want to spend it, because the vault, you know exactly what you're going to get. So, and you get
Yeah,
some
lots
extra.
of good stuff in that vault. Breeze in there. If you've had the vault the whole time, I mean, now the people that just got released, Breeze in there. There's a 4-star silver Vince McMahon in there. I think Breeze 4-star bronze. There's a 4-star gold Elias in there, which again, we're talking about how useful these +1 MP coaches are. So he's that for black, I believe.
Yep.
So he's also extremely useful. There's Sting shards in there. I love Stinger, Acro Stinger. He's one of my favorite characters in the game. So yeah, I mean, yes, they cost money. Um, if you don't want to spend the money, don't spend the money. It's fine. We're not telling you to spend money. We're just saying these people, these characters also exist, and there are also things that they do that are useful.
Yes.
Don't
Definitely.
send us your angry letters, please.
Right. We are
Or
not.
at least send them the Mherex.
Don't make me out you, sir.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
So I guess there are a couple of other trainers uh, in text that are useful.
Yep.
So right away, I think uh, Jey Uso. So we forgot about the submission trainer when we did showboats. So I don't want to make that mistake again. So Jey Uso is going to reduce opponents' submission turns.
Yep.
Uh, only for text though.
Correct.
So you have to have at least one tech level. I mean, you can't get a fully balanced gameplay experience if you're not, leveling people based on class, based on era, things like that. So you're going to have to level one eventually. So one of the trainers that's really vital for all the classes is going to be the submission reduction guy. Other trainers that are also useful specifically for text, I mean, you could use them for other situations, but they have two green damage guys. So we mentioned earlier, those are going to be Goldust and Kevin Owens. Someone like Goldust, he can do a ton of damage. He can put a bunch of botch gems on the board. He has the benefit of being able to run both Anderson and Bret if you wanted to. So I think you can do like choose 20 or something ridiculous. And then his finisher hits really hard. So the problem with him is just one, you're going to have to load two moves separately. So earlier we talked about how that's not my favorite. You could use a yellow to feed into it to make it a little bit faster. And choosing, you'll end up with less botch gems on the board. So with these techs, we've kind of glazed over a lot of people where you could probably, I mean, we're not saying that they're not usable. It's just that at this point, you probably shouldn't be investing your resources in these guys, especially with 5 stars on the horizon. I would say, unless you have one of these top tier guys that we're talking about. Mherex, can you say it once?
What is it? Oh,
Cream
fine,
of
fine. Cream of the crop.
yeah. So if you have one of these guys, then yeah, you should be leveling them. But if you don't, maybe wait and see. Because if it's going to be a while before you get, one of these technicians up to that level, maybe it's best to see long term who is your best option there, because we saw at 4 star they make a lot of guys that weren't very good suddenly usable, so that could easily happen again. So on the plus side, if you're not spending a lot of resources on them, once you decide to do it, should be fairly quick.
Right.
So
Booker T's green gem damage. Asuka's the Berserker coach. DDP is worth going 5k for sure. Cesaro's green gem destroy 5k. Pretty niche, but Moxley, Dean, he does moves that destroy mobile gems, so he's got a use with Mr. T. KO has a choose green move at 4-star gold. I believe it's an 8 MP blue. So KO with, or it might be 9 MP actually, 9 MP. But he does have a choose green into a green sub. So that's kind of interesting. Jay that we talked about can recycle really, really well, but his moves are super weak. So yeah, I agree. You're better off not really leveling.
You mentioned I think you mentioned Jake the Snake in passing.
Yeah, the Snake and Rick Rude are both potentially worth taking up. Snake is interesting. He's got a good 5-star move if it stays. So the 7 MP Black Bleed into the Sleeper Hold, which is a yellow move, and the Sleeper Hold generates multiply gems. And at 5-star, he, if it stays, gets a move that destroys multi-gems. So that would make him recycle quite nicely, assuming you can get to the black and the yellow, and depending on what MP color that is. But potentially that one looks decent. Rick Rude gets a purple destroy move to go with his finisher with the destroy, so he gets better at 5-star too. So those two are two to consider, but again, those moves are subject to change. And yeah, your resources are probably usually going to be way better spent on a powerhouse or a striker, or most other classes, unless you have one of those good guys. I do think too, I would actually like to mention real quick Finn Balor, the zombie one. I'm kind of a zombie mark anyway. If you run him with his blacks, he's got to destroy green gems, he's got a sub, and then you can use his green finisher. It's not super strong, but you destroy a 7x1 area, so a row. And then he's got his bite with the bleed on it. He's going to be needed during zombie season. Pretty good coach if you use anyone with a life steal. He adds a little bit extra to that. So he's modern era if you need a modern era tech, and most of the good new ones are all modern era. So if you don't have one of the good new ones, your modern era techs are Joe, and is Jay modern too? Yeah, Jay's modern, Joe's modern. So potentially Z Balor. Other than that, one more call out. $1 Million Man, if you are very low VIP, he's going to be your best farmer, because if you're low VIP, you're going to have trouble matching loot boxes. So in that case, $1 Million Man is probably going to be your best farmer. I prefer to farm with a fast guy that wins turn one, and I take no damage. But if you aren't ever getting enough loot boxes, doing it with a guy like that, $1 Million Man would be worth taking up. I think that's about what I have on techs. Anything you'd like to add on techs, sir?
One quick one. So you mentioned strikers and powerhouses. We recently got powerhouse angle as a reward for something.
Yes.
So DDP is going to create extra X break gems. That's going to be useful on powerhouse angle. So he creates extra X break gems, and then he has a couple of different ways that he can go breaking them. He has countdown gems that break them, and I think at 5-star he has a low charge move where you can choose certain ones to break. So if you have powerhouse angle, he's a powerhouse, so that means he's really good. And yeah, if he's someone that you like or someone that you've chosen to level up, make sure that you're looking at DDP.
DDP, if you're a DDP, Mark is probably also usable. He does get a black stun move at 4-star. You're probably going to take some damage, but he potentially could be useful as well. So don't think we missed DDP. Jericho, kind of usable, not insanely so. It's just a lot of the texts don't really excite either of us, other than those top tier guys.
The thing is, they're all usable, and they all have certain builds that work in certain situations, or they have cute little things that you could do that will work when they work out well. It's just, yeah, it's like the guys that are good are so much better, and then other classes overall are better. It just seems like I'm not going to say a waste, but the coins in TP could be used for much better things.
Yeah.
So you need to have a couple of them for sure, but don't go out of your way. Some guy just because I need a tech. Let me level up. I don't even know. Let me level. I don't. One of the guys. I don't even know who they are anymore. That's how meaningless they are to me.
Yeah, tech is not the class where you need to be 4 golds deep. You don't, get 1 or 2 golds and you can probably call it good. We talk a lot about filling out your class or your roster with guys that make sense, that do stuff other guys don't do. So eras and stuff, you can keep all that in mind. Bruno's a great legend guy, but again, if you have Bruno, you're leveling him. So yeah, it's really just the other classes. It seems like top to bottom, maybe a little more useful. The very top of tech though is very good. They are designed to be all around, so their gem damage is in the middle, their hit points are in the middle, their move damage is pretty strong, but not as not always enough to put people away. So they're kind of good all around. I think this class in particular takes a really big bump from straps and metals because they're all around. There's a lot of different ways and builds you can do that benefit them. But yeah, other than that, get a couple 1, 2, 3 good techs, and then or one good one and then maybe a backup one, and get some air coverage, and then level up your powerhouses and strikers and hope those. I can't see strikers ever becoming weak with their gem damage, but powerhouse and striker are so much stronger than the other stuff now. It's hard not to recommend moving those guys up over, say, a third or fourth tech.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the angry comments from people under the impression that tech is the best class. They're not bad, not great.
Right.
Except ones that are great.
Yeah, then those are great. Kofi's a win button.
And his best build also needs Del Rio.
Razar.
Stop that.
You stop that.
I think we should probably stop this podcast. I mean,
Probably.
we haven't talked about the women.
Isn't there like 3?
Yeah, and one of them I don't think anyone has.
Right. You don't have Tech Becky, and she's not
Yeah,
top.
she's super annoying.
Yeah, not top tier, but annoying. Asuka also super annoying, but you don't want to play with her on offense.
Then Lita, for a while, you were really into her, but then you kind of got cold on that. Tell us, Mherex, why you hate Lita?
Too slow.
Too slow. Didn't you start leveling her because you were excited about how finally there was
A fast
a,
female,
a female
yes,
that was fast?
and it was that way, but then Z Page and Bailey came along, and Lita no longer feels very fast. She's still good. She
Yeah,
still can recycle. I mean, I would level her way before Asuka, unless I just wanted to be annoying and
yeah.
throw Asuka out there to annoy people. The yellow moveset is fun when it works. When it hits, it does big damage. And the blue moveset just recycles really well, but you're doing lots of moves, so it takes a while. Um, yeah, she doesn't have a sub,
Lita's
so I like her.
yeah, Lita's very much like Tex in general, to where she's good, and yeah, she can win matches. It's just there's something about it that's just not exciting.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, is there anything else you'd like to discuss about Tex or life in general?
Um,
Haha, stumped you with that one.
I was trying to think of a witty comment, and I just don't have one
Don't
right
don't
now.
hurt yourself.
Yeah, you could probably hear the gears grinding.
Yeah. Well, I feel like we've gotten to the end of. I feel this is going to be the tech of podcast. Like this felt painful.
Yeah, I hope it's better listening back to it than it
Yeah.
was recording it. This has been not my most favorite one.
No. I think all techs except for Kofi should just get removed from the game.
As long as I get Kofi, I'd be okay with that. I would
You know
like.
what? No. You know what? No. I want Ciampa and Gargano.
So that tag link is ridiculous, and I would definitely try that in Showdown over Dango and Breeze. With
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
I would try it. I don't know if it would be better, but Champa with that 1 MP make silence gems and the 2 MP make silences to green and having 100% bonus on it, I would just run him with Rizar and green gem damage bonus maybe, or potentially Rizar and King of Kings, or maybe, I don't know. I'd get creative with it. I'd probably put the black choose move in too, just because I don't know. And then Gargano with that green, more green gems, click button, do big damage. I would have to try it.
It would warm my heart to have Ciampa and Gargano, specifically Gargano, but whatever.
I mean,
You
who?
mentioned King of Kings. I guess
Hmm?
if you don't have Del Rio,
Rizar.
yeah, if you don't have Del Rio, King of Kings is the poor man's Del Rio that you have to pay for. So maybe the middle class man's Del Rio?
I'll allow it because it's confusing, but it also makes sense.
Yes. King of Kings, the middle class man's Del Rio.
Yes, that. I think also, I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure King of Kings drinks Big Red. And why not? Because Big Red is delicious.
Yeah. I mean, he has a mouth, so there's no reason for him not to.
True facts.
All right. I'm excited for next week because we're going to talk about a class better than Tex. It doesn't even matter what it is.
Yeah, and I'm excited for next week because you won't be there, and I won't be
Oh,
getting random machoisms thrown at me all show.
oh. But I thought you digged it.
No, it's not good. You do not dig good macho
Listen, dude, if you're
impersonation.
gonna give me the hat and the glasses, I'm gonna go with it. You should know this by this point.
Okay, fine.
So
Give me one good snap into a Slim Jim. Oh yeah, and I might consider inviting you back.
I don't need your pity. On that note, I think we should end it.
Coward. Fine. It sounds like it's come to the point of the show where I've pissed my guest off too much to continue. We've also exhausted our ability to talk about the lower class technicians who aren't very much fun to talk about because they're not exciting. Hope you enjoyed this week's show. Don't forget, we are the longest running Champions 2020 podcast. I mean, just saying, that's a thing. Even if
Take that, roundtable.
Yeah, buddy. Wait, I'm on that show too. This is awkward.
Wait, have you been committing podultery?
You didn't know? Oh, this is awkward.
You hurt me. You've hurt me deeply. You've
Okay.
hurt me deeply. End the show.
Okay, so thanks for listening, guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share. If you're still listening, thank you. Watch again next week. We'll bring another one, and probably another
And
one
it'll be
after
much
that.
better.
It can't be worse. It can't be worse. I would like to thank again TWO, inventors of the tag match, and Big Red It's Delicious for making this possible. And you guys have a good day, good night, wherever you're at, and good luck out there.
Remember, guys, it's a game. Relax. Fun with it.